Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Maria Andrea, and this is my Thursday night poetry series. And in the month of June, I am inspired by the booktube reading event, June on the Range. I am dedicating this month's poetry series to Western poetry, the Western landscape and poems, the tensions, relationships, archetypes of Western literature and Western novels. So last week I focused on the Native American, Native peoples of North America. And this week I would like to focus on the cowboy archetype and the movement from Texas up to New Mexico. And I'll be reading some poetry about Texas and the Texas Cowboys, and then the travel or the migration up through the region to the Southwest region up into New Mexico. So a couple of poems will be about New Mexico. And that is what I'll be doing. And I am inspired to focus on the Texas cowboy and that migration up through New Mexico because the other day I was driving. I live in Texas. I live in South Texas. And the other day I was driving down the road and there was a young cowboy riding a horse on the side of the road. And you don't see that very often these days. But when you do, it's really cool. This young man was dressed like a cowboy hat, riding his horse, and I smiled when I saw that because it reminded me of being a kid and when I was in high school and I would go out of state for camps or events. People would actually ask if I rode a horse to school. People from other states would ask if being from Texas if that meant I rode, or other kids rode horses to school. And the answer was no, we didn't ride horses to school. But people do own horses and people do ride horses. And it's not every day you see a cowboy riding a horse on the side of the road, but it happened the other day and I smiled and thought, here's a real life cowboy. So I want to talk about the cowboy archetype in poetry and share poems that allude or focus on that archetype while also trying to move my way up the Southwest or the Western landscape so that I can get to other parts of the country's West before the end of the month. So I'm going to start with sharing poems from this collection. This is the Everyman's Library pocket book, Poems of the American West. This collection was selected and edited by Robert Mezey. This was published by Knopf, and the publication year is 2002. So I love Larry McMurtry. I've only read Lonesome Dove, and I'm reading his nonfiction, his essay collection. But then one of the books in the Lonesome Dove series is The Streets of Laredo. And there's a poem here titled The Streets of Laredo. Just checking real quick. The Streets of Laredo, it's a folk song. So it's not tied to it's not credited to a particular author. So this is The Streets of Laredo. As I walked out in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a poor cowboy all wrapped in white linen, as cold as the clay. I see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. These words he did say as I softly stepped by. Come sit down beside me and hear my sad story, for I'm shot in the breast, and I know I must die. 'Twas once in the saddle I used to go dashing, 'twas once in the saddle I used to go gay. 'Twas first to the alehouse and then to the whorehouse, got shot in the breast and I'm dying today. Great six strong young cowboys to carry my coffin. Sorry, get six strong young cowboys to carry my coffin, and six pretty women to sing me a song. Lay bunches of roses all over my coffin so they can't smell me as they carry me along. Oh, beat the drum slowly and play the fife lowly. Play the dead march as you carry me along. Take me to a green valley and throw the earth over me, for I am a poor cowboy and I know I done wrong. And that is the Streets of Laredo. Laredo is not far from where I live, so it feels like a very real place to me. Continuing on with the Lonestar State, the Texas landscape, I have a poem titled Lonestar State of Mind, and this is a Western song, lyrics to a Western song. Lonestar State of Mind. Your phone call took me by surprise. Gee, it's been a long, long time since these hot and humid Texas nights when we went swimming in the tide. And Corpus Christi seems so far away, and I'm not talking about the miles. There ain't much I wouldn't give today just to see one of your smiles. And here I sit alone in Denver, sipping the California wine, and I've got all night to remember you. I'm in a Lone Star state of mind. Just saw John Wayne on the Late Late Show, save the girl and ride away, and I was hoping as the credits rolled he'd make it back to her someday. It's 1,000 miles or more from here to your front door. I'd be there tomorrow if I left today. I'd just pack up my guitar, you know it's really not that far. When you called, you said I'd have a place to stay, and here I am in Denver, sipping the California wine, and I've got all night to remember you. I'm in a Lone Star state of mind. This is a song about a cowboy in Denver thinking about someone in Corpus Christi, Texas. This next poem is by Robert Mezey, and it is titled In Texas, Variation on a Theme of Borges. I know this place, the endless prairie, as on his own continent, a cry distant and solitary, on the wind goes silent, and in the emptiness somewhere, a bird I cannot see sings over the clamor of plague and war, old calamity, long forgotten in swirls of dust, and here too the locust sings, where bands of Indians once passed and wild mustangs. Nor do I need these stars to say the undying names below. Junin, where Suarez saved the day. Thermopylae Alamo. As everyone, so here a radiance that now and then briefly illumines this obscure exile from oblivion. And the last from this collection is titled Ruidoso, New Mexico. So I'm trying to move up to New Mexico now. This is by Ron Koertge, I think. Last name is Koertge. We have come through the suburbs of the moon to these mountains, drawn on a map in hurried lambdas, like the work of a junior cartographer. But they are beautiful in person, and I love sitting on the porch of this motel, the room number over my head, so I resemble Euclid on vacation. I'm poring over the dark biographies of horses, counting the money I will probably not win tomorrow, while the lips of the American dusk hover just inches from my own. Next, I'm moving to this collection that I shared last week's poetry reading. This is Poetry of the American West, a Columbia anthology edited by Alison Hawthorne Deming. This first poem I want to read is titled Men in New Mexico, and it is written by D.H. Lawrence. D.H. Lawrence was born in 1885, died in 1930, and this is what this collection says about D.H. Lawrence. The English author lived for a time in the Taos, New Mexico arts colony that centered around the energies of Mabel Dodge Lujan. The Southwest inspired in Lawrence a group of poems that wed his lyric sense of the natural world with his concern for the subjugation of sensuality in what he saw as a dangerously rational age. This is Men in New Mexico. Mountains, blanket wrapped round a white hearth of desert, while the sun goes round and round and round the desert. The mountains never get up and walk about. They can't wake. They camped and went to sleep in the last twilight of Indian gods, and they can't wake. Indians dance and run and stamp, no good. White men make gold mines and the mountains unmake them in their sleep. The Indians laugh in their sleep from fear, like a man when he sleeps and his sleep is over and he can't wake up, and he lies like a log and screams, and his scream is silent because his body can't wake up. So he laughs from fear, pure fear, in the grip of the sleep. A dark membrane over the will, holding a man down, even when the mind has flickered awake, a membrane of sleep like a black blanket. We walk in our sleep in this land, somnambulist, wide-eyed, afraid. We scream for someone to wake us, and our scream is soundless in the paralysis of sleep. And we know it. The penitentes lash themselves till they run with blood in their effort to come awake for the moments, to hear the membrane of the sleep no good. The Indians thought the white man would awake them, and instead the white men scramble asleep in the mountains, and ride on horseback asleep forever through the desert, and shoot one another amazed and mad with somnambulism, thinking death will awaken something no good. Born with a call, a black membrane over the face, and unable to tear it, though the mind is awake, mountains blanket wrapped round the ash-white hearth of the desert, and though the sun leaps like a thing unleashed in the sky, they can't get up, they are under the blanket. There's this really cool photo in here of people camped out under this amazing cactus, sitting on a blanket. Looks like it's a family having a picnic under a cactus. It is a picnic under a giant cactus near Fort Thomas, Arizona, 1886. The last poem I'm going to read tonight is titled Cowboy's Lament, and this is written by Anonymous, and it says just a little blurb about this poem. In 1908, N. Howard Jack Thorpe printed in Estancia, New Mexico, a small collection of cowboy songs he had collected on the range. Scholars have traced the origins of Cowboy's Lament to the early 1700s. These are hundreds of versions of the text, all dealing with the death of a sinner dying in a street or on a barroom floor. These songs and new ones continue to be adapted by contemporary cowboy poets and singers. This is Cowboy's Lament. 'Twas once in my saddle I used to be happy, 'twas once in my saddle I used to be gay, But I first took to drinking, then to gambling. A shot from a six-shooter took my life away. My curse, let it rest on the fair one who drove me from friends that I loved and from home, who told me she loved me just to deceive me. My curse rest upon her wherever she roam. Oh, she was fair, oh, she was lovely, the belle of the village, the fairest of all. But her heart was as cold as the snow on the mountains. She gave me up for the glitter of gold. I arrived in Galveston in old Texas. Drinking and gambling I went to give o'er. But I met with a greaser, and my life he has finished. Home and relations I ne'er shall see more. Send for my father, oh send for my mother, send for the surgeon to look at my wounds. But I fear it is useless, I feel I am dying. I'm a young cowboy cut down in my bloom. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my relations. My earthly career has cost me sore. The cowboy ceased talking, they knew he was dying. His trials on earth forever were o'er. Chorus. Beat your drums lightly, play your fifes merrily, sing your death march as you bear me along. Take me to the graveyard, lay the sod o'er me. I'm a young cowboy and I know I've done wrong. And that is it. It goes on, but it's a different poem. And then this is another cool photo in here. This is a cattle roundup. I don't know if you can see it. It's cowboys all on horses trying to round up the cattle. This is in Arizona, 1896 to 1899. That's it for today. I have some other thoughts, but I'm going to save them for next week's poetry reading. So I hope you enjoyed the poems I read tonight. And of course, the cowboy archetype and the travels through Texas and into New Mexico are just a big part of a lot of Western storytelling and Western life and travel through the Southwest. So I'm enjoying the series so much. I'm enjoying appreciating the landscape and just all of the parts that make up the Western stories that we are so familiar with. So thank you so much for watching. Hasta la próxima.